Hello, I'm Mantastic'c and Fantastic, and today I'm going to be talking about my thought process on possibly monster exchanging for Halloween Cotton, Elia, and Chakeol. So, as a general blanket statement, the monster exchange system has been one of the greatest improvements to Pad because it allows us players to convert excess duplicates of various cards into something meaningful. Now, this process is a costly one. It's going to cost you 4 to 5 cards, or what I like to call trade fodder. And it only should be done if it's going to actually advance or catapult your monster box in the right direction. So, you should only do this if you feel like it's actually going to improve yourself. You know you're going to gain value, because there's no worse feeling than monster exchanging for something, realizing you can't actually use it, and then you just wasted all that trade fodder. So, as a general rule of thumb, when you are going to be sacrificing your trade fodder, I highly recommend you keep at least 2 copies of any given card, because you never know what kind of buff or improvement is going to happen for that respective card, because, you know, I'm going to use the example of Valkyrie Seal, who has basically gone from a card that was pretty underwhelming to someone that is actually incredibly spectacular, to the point where you can make arguments that she's one of the best subs for their respective color, and to a certain extent you can even use them off color as long as a sub attribute matches the respective color necessary. So you don't know if we're going to get like these split evolutions, because this is definitely a trend. Gung-Ho loves to give split evolutions, and having 2 copies lets you, have both copies, because Valkyrie Seal is an absolute pain to evolve. You're not going to be able to swap back and forth. It's not a feasible solution. So I like to keep at least 2 of every given card. But with that being said, let's talk about the cards from this Halloween event before it actually expires. So, Halloween Cotton is one of the premier Daytona subs, or Meredith. And I would not monster exchange for Cotton unless, you actually have those respective leaders and you feel like you can actually make use of them. So what does Halloween Cotton have going for themselves? Well, they have a 10 combo and 8 TPAs. Truly spectacular amounts of personal damage, but it was underwhelming in Super Gravity, but that's a different story. But for non-Super Gravity style dungeons, it's plenty of damage, to the point where main attribute would double damage cap, sub attribute was double damage capping pre-buff, and post-buff it's way higher than it was before. So damage output is actually fantastic. A double damage cap card, or the fact that they have 8 TPAs means you are able to run the unmatchable latent, and then any light or dark TPA will clear 8 turns of unmatchable every single time. Furthermore, if you're playing in solo mode, they have a great array of super awakenings, all the resists or skill boost plus, but the fun doesn't stop there. If you play co-op, such as myself, which I do utilize for MD2, my Daytona co-op team, it has lots of Halloween Cottons, you don't need super awakenings to truly function, so to speak, because in co-op it's much easier to acquire many more. You have 4 more weapon assists and 4 more cards you get to bring in total to the given dungeon. So it's a lot easier and less rigorous for team building, so to speak. So the fact that Halloween Cotton's performance is not too negatively impacted by this makes her valuable in co-op. Again, that's something that works well for myself and may not necessarily be meaningful for you, but at the same time, Halloween Cotton also brings you 2 turns, not 1, 2 turns of Void Damage Void, which is absolutely vital and essential for any TPA-based team. In terms of what their drawbacks are, well, they obviously only function well in TPA-oriented teams. If you're blobbing or rowing, you're not going to be triggering those TPAs. And if you trade without actually owning Daytona or Meredith, you're just going to possibly be holding onto a card that's not providing too much value. Kaishu teams do not need Halloween Cotton because they solve their Void through their own active skill. So that is something to keep in mind, along with the fact that Daytona and Meredith are starting to fall a bit behind, so to speak, mostly because they don't perform that well in Super Gravity dungeons. And if your goal is to clear Super Gravity dungeons, they're not going to be the best choice overall, along with the fact that the higher numbered MDs, basically just beyond MD2, it's not a good fit for them, because it's just, they're not keeping pace with the other currently great leaders. But at the same time, Daytona offers one of the easiest playstyles available. They can smash through medium to medium hard to possibly hard content with relative ease. So again, Halloween Cotton tends to be quite instrumental for those teams because they hit incredibly hard, the Void Damage Void, useful Super Awakenings. For Halloween Elia, she has 6 TPAs instead of 8. It's still a fantastic amount of damage output overall, and if you do pursue the TPA plus Super Awakening, you arrive at 8 again, and you can utilize them for the unmatchable Leighton to clear unmatchable when you match light or dark orbs. And their active skill post-active transforming is for 1 turn on a 2-turn cooldown, you receive 1.5 times HP, and you change the far right column to light orbs. So you are giving yourself essentially a 50% health increase, which who doesn't love bonus health? Because this will stack with damage reduction active skills. So if you have, like, say, a long looping shield inherited somewhere, or even on Elia herself, because of a 2-turn cooldown, and assuming you didn't overcharge at the beginning of the dungeon, you will be able to use the transforming active skill, charge up that shield, use that looping shield, and then give yourself that extra HP when you think it's going to be necessary. There's a lot of cool tricks you definitely can utilize with it, and the fact that it does make light orbs helps with orb generation, which in turn helps with damage output. So she can be a meaningful sub all around, brings a different kind of utility compared to Halloween Cotton. But at the same time, she also offers quite strong weapon assist. Her first weapon assist gives a light sub-attribute changer, or gives a sub-attribute if none was present, a single TPA, which we know is great for TPA-oriented teams, and Team HP and Team RCV. So you got bulk, you got potentially more damage output with the new sub-attribute color, and you got an extra TPA, along with the fact that the active skill is 2 turns of 2 times health, which is a pretty large increase overall to your bulk, and it does give you the chance to unlock orbs and change all orbs to light and hearts. In theory, you could potentially use this to help stall out transformation times, because it will act as a shield, so to speak, because it increases your effective health. And then their other weapon assist gives a skill boost and a VDP awakening, along with a 15-turn cooldown that gives a 3-turn delay and 30% gravity. So maybe you need the delay towards the beginning of the dungeon to help you get going. Maybe that gravity actually comes in handy later on, or you just delay the next spawn. And again, of course, any team that actually utilizes VDPs can benefit from this, especially when in the future, VDP Awakenings will be buffed to deal more damage. And now we come to Halloween Chakeol, who I feel is a tremendously strong card. So, she is incredibly valuable in both forms. And one thing I want to stress is that it's inexpensive or easy to just swap between her various forms, because it doesn't cost you many resources, so to speak, and it won't reset the level 120 progress or the double damage cap Leighton you slapped on her. So that is great, because in theory I can only own one Chakeol, but I can have both forms. I'll just swap back and forth between the two because you don't lose those levels. So for the red-blue form, she provides triple 10 combo awakening, a single cross, so that gives you that flexibility to clear the sticky blind skyfalls, and 100% blind and jammer resist. Absolutely stacked to the max, so to speak, in terms of awakenings. And you could just make the small, kind of weak argument that's like, well, I guess it's 2 skill boosts only, but if you have enough skill boosts, it doesn't matter. In theory, you just made space for better awakenings overall, so kind of not really that big of a drawback. And in addition to that, she has a 3-turn active skill, which is great because you can inherit something over top to solve earlier floors, and then afterwards, it provides a 1.5 times attack buff for both leaders, which will overwrite any attack debuff that's present on them currently, which obviously is meaningful, along with the fact that it is a full unmatchable clear. So depending on the dungeon you're playing through, the unmatchable may be all you actually need to deal with this respective spawn, because like some dungeons may only have unmatchable, like UN1. You don't really need Awakening Bind Clear because it's only going to happen if you push the boss into execute, and, well, don't. And there is unmatchable problems, so Chakeol will solve that, and the active skill that's inherited could solve other problems. Furthermore, their leader skill is a 7x6, so that means Chakeol could be a sub on your teams, especially Prim teams, or she could be your 7x6 solution to get Prim onto the larger board. So Chakeol is just a stellar sub all around in this form, and there's not too many downsides to this card. I guess I kind of said, well, the other form is like, you know, strong, but like you can just swap between them, and I guess maybe lower effective health on the leader skill. That it's more so if you don't transform right away or leader swap right away or whatever it is, and you're stuck with Chakeol, you're going to have possibly lower effective health until you get your real leaders into position, so to speak. For her dark form, same amount of damage output with triple 10 combo, but it comes with a tape resist, 4 skill boosts instead. I don't know why it says 2. That should not be present there. It's okay. I can edit things later. But 4 skill boosts, triple 10 combo, so immense damage output on main and sub attribute. It can get a sticky blind resist, or you can choose the Dark Tacos or the L Awakening if you don't need super blind resist, especially for Blackbird teams. And the active skill is an 8-turn cooldown, which is not so long that you can't inherit something over top of it, but it's also not so short. Like, that means you could inherit something over top of it and gain some benefit at the beginning, and then it becomes a looping shield active skill. I don't know why things didn't change. It's okay. But they are able to provide 8 turns of 35% damage reduction. So on an 8-turn cooldown means you have 100% uptime, assuming you didn't get skill delayed. And that's going to grant you wondrous things, because now you're just so much tankier than you were before. You can survive repeated punishment with more relative ease, so to speak. So looping shields are helpful because it does let you tank things much longer than that you could have possibly done before. It can ease some health thresholds when you are team building. And this is a flexible card all around. I'd say both Chakeols are pretty flexible. In theory, you could run them on rainbow-based teams if you need those active skills, because with triple 10 combo, they are going to double damage cap on both main and sub attribute, and that's just going to make your life much easier all around. So, in conclusion, I feel that Halloween Chakeol is an incredibly strong card. I feel like if you don't have one, it is worth picking up because of the flexibility, especially if you have Prim, because then you have both more options for each form. And obviously, this event will return in the future. It does have a high Monster Exchange price tag, but if you feel like any of the pros that I've mentioned are valuable for yourself, it may be worth actually picking up. But with that being said, let me know what you think about these cards in the comments section down below. Did you Monster Exchange for any of them? Along with, do you like these types of videos / articles? Because I feel that if there's enough positive feedback, I would like to continue doing this. But regardless of all that, hopefully you all have a truly fantastic day. I wish you all the best in your own pet adventures, and happy puzzling.